Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a real estate podcast about what's going on in the condo market. Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties. I'm Peter Zaleski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Joined here by my partner, my co-host, and broker owner of CVR Realty, Jenny Huertas. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Jenny, we're talking Fort Lauderdale today. We're going to give everybody an update what happened in the first half of the summer buying season, which goes from May through October. We're at that midway point, John. We just got through the World Cup. We had 6 weeks of international guests coming to South Florida, where we hosted 7 matches. 450,000 people got into the Hard Rock Stadium. Jenny, we're going to look into, did any of those people move forward and buy condos up in the Fort Lauderdale and Fort Lauderdale Beach area? How's that sound?
That sounds great, Peter.
Jenny, you know, we're a few weeks removed from the World Cup. You've had some time to sort of contemplate, to consider, to analyze, to reflect. What was your take on the World Cup?
As far as the World Cup or as far as the condos?
as far as the condos, because remember, we're in a buyer's market across the board in South Florida. Developers and sell-side agents, they all said once the World Cup was here, people were coming to town. 450,000 tickets were sold. Some of them have pretty expensive prices. Jenny, any of these people buy condos? And if so, did any of them buy them in Fort Lauderdale?
That's a good question. Probably a very good question for people that do pre-construction, that they had all the events and they can tell you if they really signed that paper or not. I know you're rolling your eyes, you're yawning and all that, but to me, it was busy in the sense that we were looking for properties, yes, and submitting offers, yes, being accepted, few, and resubmitting offers again, absolutely. So it's been a weird summer, but definitely all eyes were in South Florida, and we continue to work and find the deals for the people that is savvy and can take advantage of them.
Well, Jenny, you know, what was so important is the World Cup. It went from the middle of June, I think it was the 11th it started, then it wrapped up sometime around the 18th or so of July, which is critical because come August 3rd, Fannie Mae, the secondary buyer of mortgages, they announced prior to that come August 3rd, they were eliminating something called the limit of review, which made it easier to get a mortgage for a condo. Now it takes longer. You got a better chance of getting rejected, and there's probably going to be more costs associated with it because now the mortgage application has to go through a full process rather than a limited process. So if you were looking to sell, you needed to sell before August the 3rd, unless you're selling to all cash. But we all know when all cash buyers come in, they want a discount.
Yes, the cash is king all over again, and people are still resistant. Sellers are resisting something that they cannot really defend.
It's called reality.
It's called reality, and if you ask me, yes, it is the summer of reality check. Absolutely.
That's a pretty good way to put it. I was calling it a wasted summer, but you're saying it's summer of a reality check. Wow. Yeah. Well said. Jenny, you know, we really got, and we're going to get into Fort Lauderdale numbers, but we really got 2 things playing out. You have those people who bought in 2021, 2022, 2023. These are the types that think that their one kid is great at soccer, the other one's on the honor roll. They think their significant other is great looking. They think they got the best job. They think they drive the best car. those are the ones that, for the most part, are pulling their condos from the market. Why? Because they're getting lowball offers. They're not selling. The other alternative is those people who've been in a condo for quite some time. Now they've gotten hit by the rising cost of living in a condo, whether it's maintenance fees, it's hefty special assessments, it's the pricey insurance, and it's the fact that condo associations can no longer defer the costs. Now they need to identify the problem through mandatory studies. Once the problems are identified, now they have to begin funding it and moving forward to fix it to make sure we don't have a repeat of Surfside, which happened on June 24th, 2021. Nearly 100 people died. A $1 billion settlement paid out to the families of the victim, and the entire Florida condo market changed at that time. Jenny, there's two sellers. Those sellers who wanted a price because they overpaid, and now they're taking their condos off the market, and the other ones who need to get the heck out because they can't afford their condos and they want to avoid a foreclosure.
Yes. So that's the issue. So when I am helping a buyer and I have a property they like, the first question for the seller is, why are you selling? If the seller lives in that place and he got a 3% loan and he is still writing those special assessments, he has no rush. He's not in the rush. He's not motivated. So almost like I want to ask before I go to the showings, is your seller motivated, yes or not? Because what are we doing here, right? There's no time to waste. And so there's two types of sellers, clearly. And the more expensive the unit is, the more they want to hang on them. So, you know the drill already. We already had this 20 years ago. We know how it is. And there is a moment that you capitulate because you don't want to really pay more every month until you say, okay, now somebody else in the building is going to give up in the price and your comparables go down and there is nothing you can do when you have the comparables down.
Four deals in a building. I was told by a commercial real estate appraiser will reprice the entire building. When it was going up and people were coming here because you didn't have to wear a mask, even though blue states were mandating it, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said, you don't need to wear a mask. Companies said you could work from home, so people flocked into South Florida and Miami Beach, permitted you to twerk on a police car on Ocean Drive. Those were the go-go days, 2021, 2022, 2023, a little bit of 2024. You know what's going on right now? The buyers have the control of the FOMO that the buyers were experiencing. They're not anymore. They're sitting on the couch. They're doing what they want. They're lowballing. If they don't get the right price, they're not moving. You know who's concerned now is the sellers. They're in over their head. They're on the wrong side of the trade, and we're seeing it play out. Jenny, last week or so, we've been taking a look at key markets throughout the Tri-County area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. Took a look at Greater Downtown Miami. Took a look at downtown West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island. Took a look at Boca Raton. We're looking at Fort Lauderdale now. Also going to take a look at Hollywood, Hallandale, as well as Miami Beach, all in anticipation of Wednesday. We're doing our monthly meeting of the Miami Condo Investing Club. We always do it on the second Wednesday of every month. It goes from 4 till 5 o'clock. I tell you, where are we, where were we, and where we are going. So in the lead up to that meeting on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and anybody who wants to watch it live, you got to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Go to miamicondo.club. We're building an ecosystem for those people who are interested in the condo market. It's not Chamber of Commerce talk. It's not sell-side hyperbole about trees growing to the moon. It's giving you real-time actionable information about what's going into the market. So, Jen, for Fort Lauderdale today, this is all going to be added and building into what will come out on Wednesday, where we tell people where are we, where were we, and where we are going. So this is going to be a critical component because Fort Lauderdale is really kind of a key market.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there is nothing like the numbers. Numbers don't lie. It's the only thing that don't lie. And yeah, seriously, it's just numbers. So if sometimes you try to convince your seller, putting the numbers in their face, say like, listen, look, I mean, you're paying $10,000 a month. Get rid of this property. And they want to say no. I say, okay, now if you lose $50,000 because you didn't want to move it, you're going to lose $50,000 because you have it empty. And then you're still going to accept an offer that was less than you wanted to. So think about it. It's very difficult. The psychology of the seller is, and the buyer, of course. The buyer don't want to give up neither. So it just, it's a difficult negotiating nowadays because you have to negotiate with everybody. You have to negotiate with the other broker, with the other seller through the broker, with our client. It depends who are we representing. So it's not easy, but things are transactioning. There are transactions happening. So those are the people who actually say, okay, let's do it. So that's that way everybody want to get. Let's do it and let's go ahead.
All right, so let me remind everybody, every buying season, we put out a base case where we lay out what we think is going to happen. Let me take you back to a year ago. We were going into the summer buying season, which again goes from May through October. Typically, this is the wet season. The only people in town are the locals who are maybe looking for a deal, or those people who've been shopping and now they think they're going to be able to squeeze some sellers because you don't have as many people flowing through South Florida. So then you also got the winter buying season, which is going to go from November to April. They tend to be more casual buyers. They come down here for an event. They come here for a vacation. They come here for a cruise. They fall in love. They get the bite. South Florida bites them. They decide, you know what, let's go ahead and let's look into investing. So you really got kind of two seasons. Winter buying season, which is dry. Summer buying season, which is going to be the wet time. So Jenny, when you look at the summer buying season, it's the time when a lot of deals get put on the board. It's the most active time for transactions, but many of those transactions, they began in the winter when the weather was nice, when it wasn't 95 degrees and hissing down rain. It's when the events were going on and everybody wanted to be here and you couldn't get into a restaurant and so on and so forth. So it's really kind of an interesting time, an interesting way to kind of look at the market. But a year ago, going into the summer buying season of 2025, we predicted a summer of paralysis by analysis, a summer of wait and see while people were trying to figure out what was going to go on, where mortgage rates going to come down, where buyers going to get into the market, what was going to happen with the Liberation Day tariffs, what was going to happen with the Trump economy, all that type of stuff. Then we went into the winter buying season, which began in November. And at the time, we told people, if you need to get out because costs are going up, because in 2026, you are now going to be required to begin funding, putting in reserves, the amount of money necessary to do the work that's being basically identified by experts, licensed architects, licensed engineers that have gone through and studied it as part of Florida laws that were all revised because of Surfside. So we said, if you need to get out and you're a seller, you need to be bold, you need to cut your price, you need to head for the exits. Some people listened. They put deals on the board. Others thought that one kid was on the honor roll, the other one was great at soccer, their significant other was good looking, their job is the best, their car is the best. And you know what happened? They didn't sell, Jenny. They did not sell. And you know what sellers told us? They said, well, the World Cup's coming. Once the World Cup comes in June and July, we're going to be able to unload everything we had to do. So we said, fine. Coming into this summer buying season, we're now at the halfway point. Remember, it goes from May through October. So the end of June was the halfway point. Coming into the summer, we said we think the World Cup is not going to necessarily be a factor simply because affordability. This was before the Iran situation really kind of got out of control. We've heard there's been a deal, 80, 90, 150 times. It hasn't come forward. What has come forward is gasoline at $4 a gallon. The costs in the grocery store being very expensive. Mortgage rates pushing 7%, everybody. 7. Wall Street says mortgage rates got to have a 5 handle rather than a 7 handle. Right now they're 6.7, 6.8. Or even a 4 handle. Jenny, we're going in the wrong direction. And these sellers who figured they were going to hold out and sell during the World Cup is gone, long gone. And you know what's happening? The buyer market is getting even stronger. Why? Well, one reason is buyers don't want to get off the couch. The other reason is a lot of products coming off the market, but yet the buyer market is even strengthening. Typically, when you have fewer units on the market, you would think it'd be a stronger type of market. But in reality, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing listings coming down, Jen, but we're seeing pending sales come down twice as fast as listings, which means we are unraveling.
Yes, most definitely. The thing is that we thought it was going to be a faster process, but it's taking a long time because people is trying to hold on to it. And it doesn't help that the economy is not good and the interest rates are so high. It's just a combination of like a big storm brewing in the Caribbean, It's just like that. I feel it. Like it's going to be like a hurricane, like a big hurricane coming in. And then when that happens, everybody's going to jump off the couch because the prices are down. But it's taking longer than expected. I was expecting myself that it would be transacting more in the summer. Yes, we did a lot of showings. Yes, we did transact, but not in the velocity I thought it was going to be, hence the pricing, you know?
Yeah, we got a big price disconnect, everybody. You got those sellers who overpaid and now they're trying to get back what they put in. Forget a profit. And then you got the other people who are trying to get out simply because they can't afford it. So you're seeing the market really kind of like the economy. It's turned really cutting in two different directions. Those people who
Yeah.
overpaid, they think they're going to get this and they're nowhere close. And those people who need to get out, they're just looking for a buyer to step forward. But now Fannie Mae's eliminated the limit of review, which is going to make it more difficult to get a mortgage on one of these condos. So we got a lot of cross currents. It's a very challenging time. So if you're a seller, you might want to sit back and figure out a way to get through the time we're talking about turkey, cranberry, and stuffing. And if you're a buyer, low ball, low ball, low ball is what we've been saying. We'll continue to say it because you are going to get sellers who are going to crack, especially as we go deeper into the year and as the economy continues to show things. Just to give everybody a little tidbit, they're going to come out with inflation number this week. Last week, they came out with employment numbers. Jenny, we were supposed to add 80,000 jobs in the United States last week. You know how many we added? We
23,000?
lost 23,000. That's a $103,000 job swing. We're supposed to add 80, but we lost 23. So not only did we not get the 80, but we actually lost from where we were. So a lot of cross currents in mortgage rates, our mortgage rates, and unless you're all cash, it's kind of a challenging time.
Now, there are two economies. There's the economies of the 99%, which is the one we're talking about, and then is the economy for the 1%. And those 1%ers are the ones that are transacting condos at 30 million, 50 million that you see in the news, on the real estate news all the time. Now the dollar is really weak. So the Colombians are really saying, oh my God, let me buy dollars and get into something. So you see all these group of people, like getting into the same pool of the market. We'll see what happens because that dollar weakness could be months or could be weeks. We don't know. It's so volatile. It's so, I don't know how to say it, but it's like a roller coaster. So one day we're like here, and then the next day we're down here. So it's unpredictable, and the economy doesn't like unpredictability or whatever you say.
Well, and one thing we predicted coming into the summer is that nobody's going to buy in September, October because they're going to be waiting on the sidelines. Why? Because in November you got midterm elections. They are going to be contentious. If the government continues to go away, it does. We get one outcome. If there's a pivot and suddenly there's a shift away from the current administration's policies, whether it's guys with masks jumping out of vans, taking people, throwing them in the back of a van and disappearing them, that's going to be the thing that sort of plays out. We'll have to see what goes on with the economy. We'll see what goes on with the spending, with the tax cuts, with the elimination and the cutbacks on a lot of health care for individuals. So we got a bunch of different things going on. Jenny, that election's in November. Who's going to get in the game and buy if you don't know which way Washington's going to go come November? It's like when you're buying into during a presidential election. It could go one of two ways. Do you really want to pull the trigger and go in early? And what if you're on the wrong side of the trade? So that's something we predicted. We predicted coming into September. A lot of people are probably going to sit it out. They're going to wait through to November. Any reason, Jenny, to reconsider going in between September and November? Is it based simply on price? If the discount's deep enough, it's worth pulling the trigger. What is sort of your perspective on that?
Yes, if the price is right, they're going to transact, regardless of the policy, regardless of the elections and all that. And that's for one sector of the market. And the other one is the super rich. They are doing super well. So they don't care about paying $10 million for any given condo. So those are the ones who are transacting. Therefore, our market shows crazy numbers. Average price per condo, $1 million. So when the people ask me, oh my God, so if I buy a condo in Miami, it's going to cost me $1 million? Yeah, in average it is. But no, there are condos at $250,000, $300,000 that are older, that are certified. So there are options, but the people tend to buy when they think it's the good time for them, for whoever the person is and the circumstances are. But there is, they're still going to be transacting. The majority of the market are very, very slow. And, I talk to our peers all the time to the people that work in my office, the other brokers, and they all the same. They say say, how long you have this listing for? Like, I'm trying to get into a contract here, and I say, you had the listing for 6 months already. So what is your seller waiting for? You know, one of them say, oh no, my seller has a Ferrari, a Jaguar, a plane, whatever. I say, okay, that one is not gonna let the apartment go for less, but the other one maybe. So that's the thing. So we don't know. We just have to keep going out there and trying to get the best we can for our buyers.
And I would remind everybody, we've been saying this from the beginning and some have finally picked up on it. Condos are commodities. They are concrete. They are rebar. They are glass. They're no different than oil, no different than salty snacks, no different than pork bellies. And you know what I'm adding to our list, Jen, of commodities? You want to know what I'm adding to our list?
What?
AI tokens. If you go on AI, they give you a number of tokens to ask it questions. Those are commodities. You take those tokens, doesn't matter if it's Gemini, it's ChatGPT, it is Claude. They're all using tokens. Tokens are commodities just like condos, just like oil, just like salty snacks, just like pork bellies. So if you guys keep in mind that condos are commodities, they're going to trade based on pricing. It doesn't matter if you over improved your unit. You might sell it quicker. You're not getting more money, especially not in a buyer's market like this today. And this is the part, Jenny, I think a lot of people seem to overlook. You can make the case that houses are works of art. Condo, it is a commodity and it's going to trade simply on numbers.
I have a little bit of disagreement on that one. You know that.
That's fine.
And because some of the condos that I've seen, you know, they are actually pieces of art. But they're definitely the minority, so I don't think that those count for the broad spectrum of the data. But, you know, I can tell you there are some things that are subjective in condos, for example, the views and things like that, or the proximity to the water, and we don't know that. So in that sense, yes, it is a commodity, but not to the point of the oil or whatever, or the tokens that you now included in our list.
Oil, salty snacks, pork bellies, and AI tokens.
In AI tokens.
Are commodities. And so